Hey everybody, it's Party Elite. Welcome back to an old-fashioned DLC showcase for Planet Zoo. It's been quite some time since we played Planet Zoo on the channel, but with this new DLC that's dropping, I'm very excited to finally be back and to showcase some of the amazing new animals that are included within. Massive thanks goes out to the developers, of course, for giving me early access so that I could have this prepared for you nice and early. But of course, as we go on, I'd love your feedback and thoughts on which animals you'd like to see next, especially, so that I can kind of plan my episodes based on your interests. Again, this is the Sandbox Zoo where we try to showcase all the DLC animals, so if you have any favorites or picks or preferences, let me know down below. As always, again, folks, likes and comments go a long way in letting me know what people are interested in watching on the channel, and since we're returning to Planet Zoo after a very long time, likes and comments do that much more because of how YouTube works, and of course, feel free to share around if you'd like, and just helps the channel out tremendously. But folks, let's talk about what we're doing today. I am really excited for today's story and everything. I was actually going to do a capybara enclosure as the first enclosure for this new DLC, but in my research, rather curiously, I found that the capybara does not have any folklore. I'm not sure how true that is. I just have to do more research. I'm sure of it. There must be something out there, but I wasn't able to find any. Now, if you know any good folk tales about the capybara, feel free to, let me know in the comments down below. But I wasn't able to find anything, and I wanted our first enclosure back to be something that, matches my MO, the cultural storytelling, the kind of like knowledge sharing and all that, so I wanted to make sure I had that element for our return episode. So instead of the capybara, which we'll save for a later episode where we might have to instead do like a natural or other kind of cultural experience, I wanted to start with the platypus. The Bundabura Malangong Tambrit, as it is called in a few different, I think, Aboriginal ways, pronunciations that I'm sure I'm butchering among the many other pronunciations today I will be butchering. The platypus, didn't expect to be butchering English. The platypus has a bunch of interesting stories associated with it. It is a very interesting animal after all, and its origins are quite fascinating, at least as far as the Dreamtime stories are concerned. I will say right off the bat, just as a heads up, this story that is inspiring our space quite directly is darker than my usual. Some myths, tend to be quite dark, but here I'm talking like Greek mythology dark. Like Zeus would be a fan of the first half especially, if you catch my meaning. So while I'll cover the overall myth and maybe glaze over some of the details, if you do want to look it up for yourself, you can search the Dreamtime story of the origin of the platypus, or you can look up Gayadari, the platypus. But again, heads up, it is a little bit on the darker side. Now, Daru, and again, I'll be butchering a lot of pronunciations. I apologize ahead of time. Feel free to correct me in the comments, but bear with me. So Daru is the name of a young duck who was very disobedient and liked to swim away from her tribe when they were at the creek. They kept telling her not to because the water devil would get her, but she kept ignoring them. And one day she strayed far off and found some nice green grass to eat when Bigun, a very big water rat, jumped out of the water and kidnapped her. Now, Bigun was very lonely, and different versions of the story tell it differently, but one way or another, this lonely water rat convinced our young duck to be with him as his wife. It should be noted that Bigun always carried a large spear with him. That's not a euphemism, it was a weapon. So, how he convinced the duck to stay with him? Well, like I said, there are a few different versions of the story. Now, this water rat would guard her day and night, making sure she didn't run away from him, and so the duck pretended to be deeply in love with the water rat until he started letting his guard down. Taking advantage of the situation, the duck ran off one night and returned to her tribe and shared her story. They of course welcomed her back and comforted her, but when it was time to nest, a long time after all this was forgotten, her eggs hatched with children unlike any other in the tribe. They had fur instead of feathers, and 4 feet instead of 2. They had bills of ducks and webbed feet, but on the back legs they had little points like the spear Bigun always carried. And so the young duck and her children were banished from the tribe, and they headed up the stream to hide from both her tribe and Bigun, finding a mountainous creek where they could do so. When her children grew old, they saw how different they were from their mother, and so they left her too. Sadness eventually takes her, but her children thrive on, laying more eggs that hatched like themselves, giving us a rat that lays eggs, a duck with 4 feet, the platypus. So, like I said, it's a bit of a darker story, but a lot of myths and creation myths and stuff can have some darkness to them. I just thought this tale was absolutely fascinating. I'd never heard it before, but you know, it shows just how, I mean, when you look at the platypus, it's very, like, the first thought that comes to my mind, at least, is the idea of it being this, like, strange hybrid creature. And, you know, you can see that in this story, and this story also has a bit of a moral to it, which I thought rather interesting, and I thought it'd be cool to tie the moral of the story to our actual enclosure. I mean, I'm sure there are different ways of interpreting it and different ways of phrasing that moral, and perhaps I'm reading into it in a way that it's not supposed to be read into, so I apologize if I'm stepping on toes there. But I can't help but, you know, read this story in its various forms, and the takeaway I get is the importance of like listening to not necessarily your you know, parents or your elders or anything like that, but listening to collective wisdom, the importance of being wary, the importance of looking after each other, along those lines, right? Because of this idea of, like, she was warned not to go to this dangerous place, but she ignored her entire tribe. It doesn't say, like, oh, her parents or her elders, at least in the versions I read. She ignored her entire tribe and went there anyway, and then, you know, suffered some rather horrendous consequences. So I thought it was very interesting, and then I decided to build this enclosure, first of all, in the shape of the bill of the platypus, inspired by the sort of the Dreamtime artwork. I took a couple of references. I mean, they're fairly, like, accurate geometric representations, so I tried to be inspired by that as much as I could, in the form of, like, the paths and the overall shape of the enclosure. But then the enclosure also kind of is divided into 2 parts, where on the one side you have the safety of home, where Daru came from, where her tribe perhaps would eat. And then on this side that we're decorating right now, we have a slightly darker space. We have this cave. We're going to be adding a lot of, like, reeds and stuff to it. So this would be where the well, not the water devil, sorry, but the water rat eventually took her. So we have it kind of split into these 2 parts. And you'll notice on the surface and with the paths, actually, what I've done is, well, you'll see it a bit more obviously once I put the barrier down. But the idea is that there's going to be a barrier, as you'll see, around the entire enclosure, so no one can fall into the enclosure or fall into the water. But at the end there, the far off end to the top there, where there's a bit of elevation, there won't be a barrier. In fact, the path itself won't even have the rope that separates it. So it kind of plays into the story where at the zoo, think of it almost like an immersive learning experience. At the zoo itself, you know, parents would be telling their children not to go up there or to be careful up there because it's dangerous. Now, this wouldn't pass any safety regulations in the real world, but, you know, this is not the real world, so we get to have fun with stuff like this. But yeah, the idea is that, yeah, you know, parents and stuff would be like, hey, don't go there, it's dangerous, or they just be more cautious in that area, reflecting the story, reflecting the idea of the story in a very kind of, like, real way, making it a lot more, almost like immersive is the word I used earlier, and I'll use it again because I feel like it's an opportunity of immersive learning. It's like you, much like Daru's tribe, are warning, you know, your whoever to be a bit more careful. I just thought it's not something we've been able to do before, such a one-to-one kind of a narrative connection. And so I thought it'd be rather interesting, and I hope you find it interesting as well. because, like I said, the story is a little bit on the darker side than what I usually cover, but I found it very fascinating, and, you know, mythology a lot of time tends to be a little bit on the darker side, and it comes, like I said, with a moral, with a very interesting and interpretable end result, I guess. I found it fascinating. So here you can see I'm finally getting the barrier up all the way down over here, but up top, of course, where the elevation actually kicks in, where there's some height, there is no there's no barrier, there's no protection. Also using the orange brick, because I quite like the orange, bright, vibrant colors of some of the Dreamtime art and stuff that I've seen in the past, also while working on Elite Zoo South and making the Australia section in our franchise zoo. Here you're actually seeing me kind of fiddle about looking for a stop sign. So making it, just kind of being a bit more on the nose maybe about, you know, no, you're not supposed to go here. Don't go here. So I've put these these do not enter signs, sprinkle them across. But folks, I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope you enjoyed the enclosure. I'm quite pleased with how it looks. But the next step, of course, is to actually get the you know, the animals in and to speak a bit about their details and see how they interact with the space, and hopefully end up with a couple of platypus babies. But I had a great time with my return to Planet Zoo over here. The research is always fun, and the storytelling, I personally always enjoy it. So I hope you enjoyed today's story. Dark as it was, I think it is quite an interesting one, and it's always cool to touch into cultural traditions and share them. And I hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoy this enclosure. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, as always, folks. But that pretty much does it for our time lapse today. Alright, folks, we are back from the time lapse. It's been a long time since I've been able to say that, but really excited to add in our first new animal to Planet Zoo after a very long time. Hope you enjoyed the time lapse. Hope you enjoyed the story that came with it. I'm quite curious to see exactly how well this enclosure actually works, though, because it's been, again, so long since I've built one. There were a lot of little things that I tried to, like, you know, get ahead of. I had a feeling that we'd get a lot of escapes as I typically tend to see with the new enclosures. I was a little worried about mobility and how our staff could perhaps move. I'm hoping they're able to use. I mean, this might be a little too thin. It's definitely precarious, that's for sure. I guess it kind of goes with our story. But I might need to widen this section over here so that our staff is actually able to go all the way to the end over here and actually interact with some of these, you know, feeding spots and the burrows and things like that if they need to, or even just clean the area up. But overall, pretty pleased with the enclosure. I think the shape feels quite right. I feel like there's enough water over here. There's a nice underwater kind of section as well in terms of, like, as far as the view is concerned. I think it's quite nice. I think it's come together quite nicely, especially for my first enclosure in, you know, a few months. I feel like I'm back on the saddle pretty quickly. I hope you guys like it, though. Let me know down below what your thoughts are as we adjust this thing. This guy's supposed to float, but not that high up in the air. But let me know your thoughts. I'm very curious. I'm always very curious how folks feel about you know, work we've done. And why don't we go ahead and get to work on actually adding in the platypus, or the. So, fun fact: the plural of platypus technically should be platypodes. Platypodes, I think, because it's a Greek-derived word. So it's either platypus, platypuses, or platypodes. Platypi is wrong because that would be a Latin root word. But my own fun facts aside, let's dive into Zoopedia. We'll get to the fun facts in the Zoopedia eventually. I'm curious actually if that comes up, but I am very interested to see what Zoopedia has to say about the platypus. It's been some time since we've been here, but boy, does it feel good. All right, let's do this. So the platypus, or the oh dear lord, some things never change, eh? The ornithorynchus. Oh my goodness, that one's a tough one. Anatinus, or Ornithorhynchus anatinus. Listen, the platypus, right? Or the duck-billed platypus as well, right? Yeah, okay, it says so right here. So these guys are near threatened. Population in the wild of 30 to 300,000. Oh, we're using periods now instead of commas. That's interesting. I know that's hold on. That's the first time they've done this. I know in Europe, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, but in a large parts of Europe, the period is used in place of the comma. The comma is most common in like North America and in the UK as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, in many parts of Europe, the period is used instead of the comma, or it's just left as a space, an empty space. And you can actually see the use of the comma over here for 300,000, but for the platypus, it's 300 period 1,000. Very weird. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted by something very small, but I wonder if the writing here was maybe sourced from somewhere else. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's a very like Europe versus rest of the world difference. Because even in my time in like living in like North Africa and Asia and stuff, it was always a comma, whereas in like parts of at least Western Europe, I believe it's either a period or a space. Anyway, sorry, again, I keep getting distracted by the same thing. It caught me by surprise. The platypus, or also known as the duck-billed platypus, is a monotreme mammal native to streams, pools, and rivers of eastern Australia, including the island of Tasmania. It has thick brown fur, wide webbed and clawed feet, a broad, flat tail, and a characteristic flat bill. Male platypus... Oh, okay, so I guess they're going with the platypus as plural here, as opposed to platypuses. Male platypus measure 16.8 inches to 24 inches in length, with a weight of 1.8 pounds to 5.5 pounds, whereas females are 15.2 inches to 22 inches long, weighing 1.4 pounds to 4.4 pounds. Fair enough. I just want to mention, by the way, I don't expect anybody to actually use platypodes as the plural, and I think it's pretty obvious why that wouldn't have caught on and why that hasn't caught on. It's kind of a clunky word, I think. Anyway, just sorry, quick remark there. Also, monotreme, if I'm not mistaken, mean any of the mammals that lay eggs and don't have teats, I believe, are the kind of two requirements, the two requirements for the monotreme classification. Mammals that lay eggs and don't have teats. I believe both of those need to be true for a mammal to be a monotreme. But again, correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, maybe it'll be explained in a later tab, but we'll get there. As a near-threatened species, the platypus is protected by the Australian government. The species is at risk from habitat fragmentation and had previously been hunted for their furs, though this practice was outlawed in the early 20th century. Population numbers of platypus are difficult to track and compare, though it is assumed overall numbers have declined compared to the period before European colonization of the Australian continent. Fair enough. I mean, I am actually not super familiar with the platypus situation. I know of the platypus. I know it's one of the strangest mammals like in the world. Not only because of its look and the egg laying, but also it's venomous, if memory serves me right. It's got like little barbs on its hind legs. Like, it is one of the strangest creatures on this planet, and I feel like, imagine being one of those early explorers coming across a platypus and having to describe all of its properties to your friends back at home. Like, people they think you were lying. They think you were making it up. Like, I know about the exceptional nature of the platypus, but I'm not very familiar with actually its conservation status. I didn't know they were near threatened. I thought they were pretty safe, but I suppose not, yeah. Moving on to their natural habitat, again, of course, we had this highlighted already, and I do think our space is big enough for them. Now, again, for those of you who are not familiar with the channel, or for those of you who've forgotten my approach because it's been some time, I like to, for these DLC showcase videos, I like to look at Zoopedia after I've built the space. So I kind of like try to work with my assumptions on the animal, and then I take a look at Zoopedia and see how close I was or how far I was, and I feel like we've done a decent job over here. I think we've got enough water. That's the one thing I was concerned about. I wasn't sure just how much water they needed, but I think we have enough water. We have a deep water requirement as well, of course, and aquatic and tropical is what I stuck with, so looks like we're fine there. Wow, -4, really? Interesting. Okay, cool. I think we'll be fine. Species data, here we go. So, group size, excluding juveniles, is 1 to 3, up to 1 male, up to 2 females. Okay, so I was expecting maximum pairs, but I guess they can be up to 3 plus the juveniles, of course. So hold on then. In that case, what do I think here? What are we thinking? Yeah, it's not that much more space needed. I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be just fine. All right. Male bachelor group size, excluding juveniles, is 1. Female bachelor group size, excluding juveniles, is 1 to 2. Dominance system is males fight over territory and available females. Mating system is promiscuous. Relation with humans is confident, and guests can, in fact, enter the habitat. That's the one thing I wasn't sure about, because again, I was thinking about the the venom. So I thought actually guests would not be allowed to enter the habitat, but I guess we could have taken advantage of that. No big deal, no big deal. Their average male size is 20.4 inches long, whereas the female is 18.4 inches long. Life expectancy, oh hey, one of the few times this is different between male and females, at least in Zoopedia. Males on average live for 13 years, females on average live for 15 years. The average weight for males is 3.63 pounds, and for females is 2.86 pounds. Cool. Age of sexual maturity is at 2 years. Sterility is at 13. So that means, like, on average, a female tends to live past sexual sterility. All right. A number of offspring per mating event is... I know that in hindsight that sounds like a very strange thing to say, but it's interesting to see on average the life expectancy of a male matches the sterility, where like you'll often see like sterility is at death or something. It's a very strange thing to say in isolation, but it is interesting to see that discrepancy, whereas this matches over here. Number of offspring per mating event is 1 to 3. Gestation incubation is 1 month. Oh, hey, wow. And interbirth is 12 months, but reproduction in captivity is difficult. So I am glad we got the platypus in early. Over the course of this DLC showcase, we'll hopefully eventually see baby platypuses, baby platypus. Platypi is so tempting, even though it's wrong. It's very tempting to say platypi. Yeah, hopefully we'll see some babies. I'm not sure what the term is for a baby platypus, actually. Is it pup? Or I believe we don't actually have a set term for baby platypus. Maybe it's somewhere in here. But the social needs. Platypus are solitary creatures, but females will tolerate another female or male nearby. Males will be aggressive towards each other if they encounter one another. Wow, okay, so they're very solitary. Like... just barely dealing with each other, I guess, when absolutely necessary. Reproduction. Male platypus are territorial and will patrol and defend their territory during breeding season, both to defend against rival males and find females to mate with. When he finds a female, she is likely to avoid him at first, but gradually accepts closer interactions as she gets used to his presence. During courtship, both will swim past and around each other until they eventually grasp each other and mate. Afterwards, they will go their separate ways again. Interesting. They have very little interaction, I guess, in an ideal situation for these guys. The female will incubate the eggs internally for roughly a month, after which she will lay 1 to 3 eggs into the breeding chamber of the burrow. She incubates them externally for an additional 10 days until the young platypus hatch. The young remain in the burrow for up to 4 months, nursing from their mother. Females do not have nipples, instead secrete milk from their mammary glands under the skin, from where the young will scoop it up. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. Platypus grow extensively after hatching. By 4 months of age, they have developed the thick, waterproof fur and are practically independent. At 2 years old, platypus reach sexual maturity. Both males and females will leave to establish their own home ranges near water, where they can dig their own burrows. Males may begin to defend their new territory soon after reaching sexual maturity. So just really quickly on the topic of those burrows, we actually have a pair over here. I wasn't sure how they'd be used, but this is a new placeable item. I can't recall now if it's with this DLC or if it came previously, but it does apply to quite a few animals if I... Ooh, interesting. So yeah, it must be for laying eggs, and there's a burrow camera and stuff. That is really cool. Let me check something here real quick, because... if we go to habitat, you'll see that the burrow is actually listed for the meerkat as well as the black-tailed prairie dog. The platypus is the only new animal here, but I don't remember seeing the burrow previously. Then again, it has been a few months since I've sat with Planet Zoo, so I might be mistaken. But nonetheless, the burrow has 2 parts, basically. Well, it's one structure, but it exists as 2 separate pieces. You've got the above-ground section, and then underground you've got the actual burrow itself. And it's pretty cool. I'm curious to see how the interaction with this plays out. I assume they'll be sleeping down over here. I'm not 100% sure. And I guess this is the camera, which you can get into. Let me just check here real quick. Sorry, slight distraction. Enter camera view. Oh, that's pretty cool. All right. Yeah, that's very cool. Awesome. I like it. Again, you can do this with security cameras as well, but this is, of course, a bit more personal or intimate, I guess. On which note, there's this free look mode, which is a new camera mode, I guess? Or no, explore mode is a new camera mode, which I guess is great for... Oh, so you no longer have to put a person down and change their name to go into first-person mode. Cool. All right, cool. I like that. I like that. Sorry. Back to free look mode. And let's go ahead and get our media back up. Sorry, I keep getting distracted by these notifications. All right, over to research status. Of course, we have all the fun facts and everything unlocked. This is sandbox mode after all. We've got the underwater fish feeder flat. I believe that is new. Just fits a bit more nicely in tighter spaces. I did not actually install a water jet rock. Maybe I should do that. Just so we have, yeah, a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything. Where's the water jet rock? There we go. Oh, it's tiny. I was expecting something a little bit larger. I'll just pop you down over here. Why not? Doesn't look too bad. Kind of adjusted the terrain there, but it's not the end of the world. All right, over to Zoopedia, sorry. So, the submarine buoy and the water jet rock are new, I believe. I imagine they apply to quite a few of the animals in this new pack. We've got the... Skittle feeder might be new as well, and the underwater fish feeder flat as well. Fun fact number 1. Male platypus are some of the few venomous mammals. They're able to deliver venom through a spur on their hind feet. That's exactly what I was talking about, a spur. Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. Yeah, so they are venomous. If memory serves me right, they're not lethal, at least to humans. It's just tremendously painful. So yeah. Pretty cool. Fun fact number 2. Platypus, as other monotremes, are among the only mammals able to use electrolocation to detect their prey in the water. Okay, hang on. So is that actually a third requirement? Like I was saying earlier, I was fairly certain of what the classification of a monotreme like implied, but maybe this is another element, using electrolocation to detect prey. I'm assuming, again, you know, if you know better, I always welcome comments. I do read them all. I always welcome comments that correct me or inform me because, you know, one person can only know so much. You're always learning in life, right? But I assume electrolocation relies on, like, the electrical impulses from another animal's heartbeat and I guess using that to pinpoint locations. Is that really... Wow, it's interesting to see. I need to look up monotremes in a bit more depth because I thought it was only those two things, but I'm curious about that now. So far, so good. Two for 2 on the fun facts. I don't think too many folks know about the venomous nature of the platypus, so fun fact number 1 is also a solid fun fact. Number 3. When the platypus was first discovered and a specimen sent for examination, it was thought to be a hoax made up of the parts of several animals sewn together. I mean, look, that's 100% fair, right? Entirely reasonable. I would think that somebody was playing a joke on me, and yeah, stitched together a bunch of animals, 100%. I'm not surprised by that fun fact, but it is a good one. Fun fact number 4, as members of the order of monotremes, platypus are among the only mammal species to lay eggs instead of giving birth to live young. They produce milk to nurse their young, though lack nipples. As such, young platypus will lap the milk off their mother's skin and fur directly. Okay, cool. And fun fact number 5, platypus fur biofluoresces blue-green under ultraviolet light. Very cool. It is hypothesized that this adaptation might reduce visibility of the platypus to predators. Okay, that is super cool. But now I have a question. Is that still active on the like pelt? I assume so, right? Because the fur, if the fur is the active, let's call it ingredient in that biofluorescence, then that's interesting. I'm really curious about that. I'm also curious about the difference between bioluminescence and biofluorescence, if there is a difference. So I'll have to look into that. But you know what? I'm going to say it, 5 for 5. These fun facts are solid. I always tend to like look at these fun facts with like a, I don't want to call it judgmental. It's not judgmental. With a critical eye, let's say, about like, oh, well, how many of these are really out there? And I would say these are all pretty out there. Like, they don't belabor anything that people are super familiar with. Again, I don't think folks are very familiar with the venomous nature of the platypus, a venomous mammal. I don't think folks are very familiar with... I mean, I'm not surprised that people thought that it was a hoax at first, but it's nice to know that that's a fact that people thought it was a hoax at first. I mean, I would. Sometimes I still do. No, not actually. But yeah, all right, very cool. Very good fun facts. No interspecies enrichment. The only thing I guess we missed out on is the fact that you can, in fact, have guests enter the habitat. But that's all right. I mean, I guess it would have made my life a little bit easier with organizing. No, actually, you know what? It would have gotten clunky. That's the one thing about habitats that guests can enter is they tend to get a little clunky, and I quite like this. I like how simple it is. I like this like low brick. The bright orange is something I wanted to reference from the Australia section of Elite Zoo South as well. And we've got that back over here too with the path. We've got this nice bench to sit down on and you know, see the interactions, or you can come right up over here and see what these guys are up to. And of course we have this this little dangerous section that you shouldn't enter. And again, it ties into our story, right, and the myth that we're tapping into. So, you know, you're not allowed up over here. You shouldn't come up over here, and it's a bit more dangerous up over here. You know, everywhere else we've got these barriers stopping people from falling in, but up over here, you know, yeah, you could if you're careless, you could fall in. But hey, you know, guests can enter the habitat, so it's not the end of the world in some ways. I joke, obviously, but I thought it was quite nice how we could integrate the actual layout and functionality and safety features of our zoo with the mythology of the animal. And of course, this would never pass any inspection in the real world, but hey, this is a video game. Over to the market. I still love these shortcuts so much. They're so good. They're so good. All right. Okay, how can I say no to a platypus named Tao? How can I say no to a platypus named Tao? Because the stats aren't that great, but you know what? Let's go for it. Hey, come on. So that's Tao taken, and Adina, the only one with an actual badge over here. Let's go ahead and grab you as well, and let's get both Adina. Adina Podies. Let's get both of them, because I was hoping to have 2 females just to increase the likelihood of seeing young platypus, and I think that'll just give us a slightly better chance. I noticed, by the way, I was going to remark on this, but I noticed that here it does in fact say, yeah, young platypus. It doesn't say the platypus pups or the platypus, you know, it doesn't like use a specific term. So that kind of doubles down my assumption that we don't actually have a, like, that seems so weird to say, but I don't think we have an official term like pup, cub, or anything like that. So, yeah, there you have it. Over to manage. I don't think I need to actually send these guys over to quarantine. Again, in sandbox mode, we've turned off a lot of the things that would pop up and cause a lot of issues. Invalid destination. Oh, I guess this is not smooth enough. All right, let's go ahead and smooth this out first. But, like, yeah, this zoo is big. For those of you that haven't seen any of the episodes covering the DLC for Planet Zoo, this is a big zoo. The notifications are, like, endless at times, and that's not really why we're here. For that, we've got our franchise mode playthrough, which will be continuing, by the way, after this DLC coverage is done. We will be doing more of the franchise mode playthrough again. Elite Zoo South will continue, and that's where we kind of consider some of these restrictions and more real management considerations a bit more seriously. This is more just to see the new animals. By the way, new flatten to terrace option over here. That's not a part of the DLC, that's part of the free update, but just thought I'd mention that. I think that should be good enough for these guys to walk through. I could try the intensity on this a bit. I was a little worried about this because we have so much like shifting and stuff going on, so I was a little concerned about this, but hopefully that does the trick. I forget now, can we... No, I was hoping you could kind of see what was reachable or not reachable. Alright. Let's go ahead and... You know what? Hang on a second. Habitat, platypus. Yeah, that's what I thought. We need a food tray. I was like, we have their, like, enrichment feeding, but we don't have, like, regular feeding. So let's go ahead and put the large food tray down over here. Hopefully encourage these guys to come here a bit more. Find a sweet spot to put this thing down. Oh, maybe it's got to be a small one. Maybe a couple of small ones. We'll see. One over there, and... very bumpy ground over here. We'll see if that's enough. Now, is it reachable? Doesn't say it's not it says it doesn't say it's not reachable, so it should be fine. And maybe our little cliff over here is wide enough after all. All right, back to these guys. Go ahead and try and move all of you. That's an invalid destination there still. I'm gonna go ahead and pop them in over here. I'm not sure why it does that, but oh yeah, weird. It highlights it right up to there, but once I get down here, it says invalid. Very strange. All right, you know what? Pop them down over here. We'll see what happens. Go ahead and hit resume, and have them come through. Habitat cleanliness is disease risk. This is what I mean. It's like I don't necessarily want to be inserting myself with all these. Sorry about that. Edit there. Sirens blaring outside the window. Like, yeah, I don't necessarily want to deal with all this stuff. These notifications are endless. Why do we have so much? Didn't used to be this bad. Let's where are we? Get some more keepers in here, maybe. Just to clean things up a touch or two. Hopefully they'll actually get some work done. It didn't used to be this bad, but don't like seeing the notifications come up endlessly while we're actually trying to work on like looking at these new animals and stuff. On the topic of new things, I have also adjusted the water over here to give us... Oh yeah, there you go. I guess you got to zoom in to actually get the particle effects. So water now has these settings, if I can select it. You can see here under the customize settings. We always had transparency and color and stuff. Well, not always, but it's been a couple of updates that we've had some of these. But the bubbles and mist are new with this latest update, and I think it's just to allow for kind of that murkier look. I don't know how I feel about this though. It feels more like a hot spring, and they've actually, on that note, they've changed the behavior of quite a few animals too. Like I believe the capybara, which we'll be seeing eventually in this coverage series, the capybara and the macaque are more likely to chill, or I guess warm up, in shallow bodies of water that have steam. So I'm curious to see, or mist rather. So I'm curious to see how this stuff gets utilized. But yeah, maybe do I? Oops, that's not what I meant. I meant that. How do I feel about this? Do I want to keep the mist on? It feels, I don't know. It's not dense enough to feel truly like misty. You know what I mean? Feels a little just a little short of how dense I'd like it to be. And I can't go any higher. So why don't we go ahead and reduce it and see if a little bit of mist goes a long way. Well, let's see, right? Let's see. Let's go ahead and unpause and take a look at these guys. They've arrived right into the water and right across the right across this little lake too. How do you feel, buddy? You feeling okay? Happy with the... Oh. Wasted no time getting down here. Come on. Deselect everything. There we go. I'm going to spend some time with these guys. We'll take a look at their stats afterwards. It looks like they're overall pretty happy. Look at that. Such a strange little thing. Used to be enjoying the space. Oh, I love watching them twirl around and stuff. The bubbles are quite nice, I will say. I just realized these bubbles are a result of the settings. And the bubbles are quite nice, I would say. Really makes the underwater scene feel a lot more alive. Very pleased with that. You guys having a good time. Where are we going, bud? Where are we going? Still not surfacing, eh? Staying underwater for a long time. Still underwater. Oh, there we go. Fly by action over here, or swim by, I suppose, as the case might be. Yeah, alright. I mean, that's cool to see. Very active underwater, like right off the bat. And I don't want to miss them actually going into the burrow and stuff either. Quite curious about how they feel about the burrow and how they treat the burrow. I'm gonna find a good like thumbnail shot as well. This will be a tough one if they just stay in the water like that. What? I can't get over how strange they are. I don't think I've ever seen a platypus in real life. I think that's why I'm extra enamored or I don't even know what the right word is. Confused by what I'm looking at in action. So habitat, what is your... there we go. Okay, so they can come up over here. Unfortunately, it looks like they can escape because they're able to get up over there. So we can close that off, and we might be... We're fine on that side. We do need to close this off, though. So I want to go ahead and duplicate you. Put you down like so. Go. Are they the ones making the honking sounds, the platypus? Oh my god, it's so fast. I don't know how they sound or anything. I'm starting to realize just how little I know about the platypus. Oh my goodness, but I do know they're cute. Sorry to mix up my shortcut keys. Sorry about that, folks. So, just like seeing the breathing animation and stuff. Just the subtle touches. Planet always did them amazingly. Look at the level of detail as well on like the bill and stuff. Just perfect, just brilliant. So what's the difference between one lying down and standing up? Same height. They barely move vertically. Alright, where's oh, line over here? No, I thought I saw one over there. These guys in here? Where are other... They're there. Okay, that's beautiful though. Just enjoying the water. I quite like this. And I think the reduced mist is a little bit nicer too. Oh, look at the splash. Oh, amazing. Love it. I absolutely love it. All right, let's actually really quickly check to make sure they are perfectly happy. I could use some more rock actually. Okay, that's good. I was wondering about that. A little bit too much coverage it looks like. But I was wondering if we could add some more rock because there's a lot of sand and that's good because I do want to add some rock up over here. So why don't we go ahead and, whoops, I meant you. Hey, it's my birthday. Go ahead and rock. There we go. A little laggy there. Got so much going on in the zoo. My my showcase zoo has become as big as one of our regular zoos. Why is this not changing? There we go. Turn this into rock as well. They actually want a lot more rock than I expected. Interesting. Turn all this into rock. There we go. What about up over here? Make this into rock as well. Make it even more dangerous to walk on. You know, it gets really slippery when wet. Nothing like sticking to a theme, right? All right, almost there. Almost there. 20% I'm guessing is the mark. There we go. Yeah. Cool. No, you know what? The honking isn't these guys. The honking is the binturong or whatever it is. These guys. What are you again? No, Babirusa. My bad. Oh, it's been so long. You can tell how long it's been. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Come on. You're just gonna go right back into the water, aren't you? They're so tiny. I've given them way too much space. They're tiny little things. I was wondering. The thing is, though, I did need this enclosure to be at least somewhat large because I wouldn't be able to fit like the story in otherwise, you know. Like without the without like not just the story, but also I wanted the shape, the shape inspired by the sort of traditional art style and stuff. And the animal itself as well, of course, which, you know, of course, is the source of the inspiration in the first place. But like, that wouldn't be possible in a smaller enclosure. And again, if you're familiar with the channel, if you're familiar with my approach to Planet Zoo, things always end up a little bit larger than maybe they need to as far as enclosures are concerned. These two guys are over here. Where's number 3? Where'd you go, buddy? Where'd you go? Always use this to find him. Wait, where did he go? Maybe got taken away because of disease or something? I don't know if being in the burrow highlights them or if They're protected from being highlighted when they're in the burrows. I want to see one enter the burrow. I really hope we get a chance to see that. Oh, there they are. Hiding from my eyes. They're so funny when they scurry over. Play with this, I think. Or just kind of sit in its sprinklings. What a strange looking thing you are. I don't know how likely it is that we'll have a pregnant platypus this session. No luck yet. But again, like they said, it's difficult to get them to reproduce in captivity. So I'm expecting it'll take at least a couple of sessions before we see any baby platypus. What you do? Alright, good stuff though. Overall, very pleased with how this enclosure has turned out, both in terms of just like the visuals, the layout, and the use of it as well, again, which is so important. Like I was saying earlier, I would like to hear your thoughts though. How you feel about the shape, how you feel about the story, how you feel about yeah, just the space in general, and of course the new animals. If you have any thoughts on which animal you'd like to see next time, let me know in the comments down below. As I hope I said during the time lapse, there are some animals for which I'm still looking for things to be inspired by. I was very surprised to see that the capybara does not have a lot of like folklore and mythology and stories like that. Took me by complete surprise, but you know, hopefully I'll come across something eventually, or it'll just be nature inspired or nation inspired or something else. But if you have any thoughts about which animal you would like to see next, again, let me know down below in the comments, folks. As always, it really helps me just make decisions for what to do on the channel. If you enjoyed this session, if you enjoy Planet Zoo, please don't hesitate to leave a like down below as well. And, you know, since we are back after a long break, those likes and comments, they make a huge difference always. And just because of how YouTube works, they make an extra huge difference for YouTube as well. So, you know, it would be great if you enjoy this kind of content, you'd like to see more of it, if you could leave a like and a comment. Don't hesitate to, you know, share around as well. That's always appreciated too, of course. But folks, this is where we're going to be calling it a session. I think we've seen a fair bit of what there is to see with the platypus. I'm glad we were able to experiment with like the mist and bubbles and stuff as well. Hopefully next time, as we work on the next animal, we'll also be able to see the burrows in action. Just got to keep our eyes peeled for those burrows being used. Maybe having two is actually causing us, you know, causing the platypus to be less, I don't know, certain about which one to use or something like that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But that's something to consider maybe. But folks, again, I do hope you enjoyed this session. I'm gonna go ahead and finally pause it over here. Look at that. Look at these guys. Look at these guys. I just love. Oh, I'm so glad we got to see like the underwater action and stuff as well right off the bat. Got to see quite a bit. But folks, for the first time in a very long time, I get to sign off on an episode of Planet Zoo. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like I was saying earlier, if you did, you know what to do. Let me know down below. Leave a like and a comment. Don't hesitate to let me know which animal from this DLC you would like to see next, and I will of course take it into consideration alongside my own kind of research and ideas I come up with and what order I come up with them, of course. But folks, as always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big ol' thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.